So we have our lovely Simply 16 all set up and ready to go. We've plugged it in, so I've plugged the plug in at the back here. It's plugged through a surge protector. If you bought it from Pinhole Quilting, you'll have one of the surge protectors supplied when you purchase your machine. And we turn the switch on at the back. And it'll make a little beep and it's on. Let's talk about threading up. I've got a very vibrant pink thread here. This is a glide thread. It's a 40 weight trilobal polyester. It's a really nice thread, and we particularly love it for our starting quilters because it's very tolerant and it sews very well in lots and lots of different situations. And it comes either in a 5,000 meter cone like that, or we also do the full range in the 1,000 meters as well. There's a nice little pop bottom to it, so you can tidy the end of your thread away and it's nicely secure. So glide thread is a 40 weight thread, and we quite often team it up in the bobbin either with a pre-wound, and we would use 80 weight deco bob as a pre-wound, but this machine comes with your own bobbin winder. It's a really good bobbin winder. There's a separate video on how to use the bobbin winder, and you'll see on there that you can wind your own bobbins very successfully and evenly with it. They're the large M-size bobbins, and we'll go through doing the bobbin test in a later video. If you were winding your own bobbins and you were using glide, you can either wind it with glide as well, or you can team it with something like Superior Threads bottom line, wind your own deco bob, or one of the other choices that you have amongst the many options for threads on the back. So let's talk about threading up. Threading up is absolutely essential that you do it right. There are no little bits that you can skip. Everything is there, as the engineer will tell you. It's been designed and put there for a reason. We've got 2 cone pins at the back of the machine and a double cone threader at the back. We've also got a hole at the front here for an optional what's called the horizontal spool pin. The preference is if you've got a single thread, you'll use this cone pin here. If you've got twin threads, you'll use this one and this one. And if you go as far as having 3 threads, and yes, it is possible, I have done it, then you would use the optional horizontal spool pin. Horizontal spool pin is also used when this thread it's what's called cross wound, but we also have threads that we can use where they're wound straight. I mean, typically something like a metallic will be wound straight onto the cone or the spool like this. And this is the horizontal spool pin. And it just means that we can put it on here and it comes off horizontally. We'll go through that in a later video. Let's talk about threading up then. I should also mention that in terms of glide thread and some of the other threads that are available, we have them on our online shopping basket, which is at www.handiquilter.co.uk, and you can purchase them online. Take the thread straight up then, and it goes through here. If ever you have a problem with very wiry threads, perhaps you're using a metallic on the back cone pin here, then you can put a little piece of wadding, just fold it over and just pop it into that little slot there, and that'll stop it coming out. There's a thread guide just here. Let's move to the other side so you can see what I'm doing. And then we've got this, what's called a pre-tensioner. This pre-tensioner, it depends on the weight of the thread that you're using, how many of the 3 holes that are available that you thread it through. And when we do the foundation training with you, we will cover some of the differences between the different thread weights. If you're using glide thread, we quite often use 2 of these holes and we skip the middle one, but some people with glide will put it through all 3. On this occasion, I'm going to use the top and the bottom one. I'm putting it through 2. It goes through from the back to the front and then again from the back to the front, so it sort of weaves down the pre-tensioner. There's another thread guide just here, and just pull the thread either side of that guide and just push it to the back and it should just pop in. Occasionally when a machine is new, you'll find that that little guide has been pushed against the machine, and what you'll find is that you can't actually just push it back, in which case you just need a flat screwdriver and just open that little guide up a bit so that it goes in and it doesn't come out too easily. The next section of threading up the machine is the most important. It's something that we don't have on a domestic sewing machine. With a domestic sewing machine, what normally happens is that you put the presser foot mechanism down. You've got a lever normally behind the needle, and the presser foot mechanism drops the feed and it drops the foot, and it makes the tension discs do that. But on a long arm machine like this one, you'll find that the tension discs, which are just here, there's two metal plates, which are our tension discs. It has a tension disc control knob here and a spring the other side of it. What's happening with those is they're permanently on. They are always engaged. So we don't have a presser foot mechanism to drop. Some people find that quite weird at the beginning. So what we have to do is what's called flossing up. And literally, I'm going to take the thread either side of this tension disc and I'm going to floss it like this. And then I'm going to take the slack up. I'm going to trim that in a second because it's pretty long now. And once you've flossed it up, you'll find you can feel a bit of tension. You then come the other side of this spring. There's a black spring by the tension assembly. And what you should find is as you're sewing, in a normal process of sewing, that needs to be tightened up a bit more, that spring will go up and down. That is completely normal operation. Let's just trim this thread. So once it's gone underneath the black spring of the tension assembly, there is what's called the stirrup, which is a chromed part here that comes out of the machine, goes underneath there, and then there's a take-up lever which has a hole, not a slot, and you put it through the hole, making sure that it hasn't come out of the stirrup or out of the spring of the tension assembly. And then what we do is we put it through the little piggy tail here, and just pull that down a bit. I take the needle up, and above the needle itself is a little guide hole. Make sure you don't miss that one out. It's actually surprisingly important. And as I said, the engineers have always said to us, every stage is there for a reason. Once you've gone through that thread guide, you should find that if your needle is incorrectly, that the hole is both facing you and the long groove that runs the length of the needle is also facing towards you. So I'm going to run down that groove and then pop it through the eye of the needle. If you have any problems threading up your needle, it's a couple of tips here. First of all, trim off the end and do what I just did. I'm going to run down the groove with the end of the thread, and I didn't even have to see where the eye was. If you run it down the groove, it'll pop through. The other thing that I do is I put the index finger of my other hand just behind the needle, and it seems to be that it's much easier for you to coordinate bringing your two hands together than it is if you're just doing this without your other hand in place. So just try that. It's a little tip. We've threaded it all up. I'm just going to test now. Always check how that feels. Experience over a period of time will tell you whether that is close or not. And it's much better to test it now and maybe make a few adjustments than it is to wait until the thread breaks or it ends up with a bird's nest on the underside of your quilt. So that's threading up the top thread. What we're going to cover in the next video is doing the bobbin. And I'll catch you on the next video.